Five Nights at Freddy's went from one game with 5 animatronics and 2 doors to a franchise with about 10 games in it, released in under 10 years. Recently, from Security Breach, we've received nothing but major disappointments. It advertised itself as an extraordinarily scary game, but when you open up to play it, it's a complete letdown. This has been upsetting a lot of longtime Fnaf fans, especially those who have been following the franchise since the beginning and are too stubborn to do what any sane person would do and move on. It hasn't really felt the same since Five Nights at Freddy's 3 or 4, and I think I know why. From somebody who's always loved watching people play FNAF games, and now starting to try to play through all of them, I have to agree with what I just said. The Five Nights at Freddy's games that have been coming out recently, which have been enjoyable, haven't been as scary. Something just feels off about Five Nights at Freddy's. When I hear a new game is dropping, I'm like, okay, is it gonna be good? But when I used to hear about a new FNAF game dropping, I was extremely excited and couldn't wait for it to come out. This is for one simple reason, because something feels extraordinarily off about these games. What could have happened to FNAF where at one point it was at its peak, and now it just feels like they're half-baked sometimes. It's because of the fear that FNAF was using is not the same type as it is now. Five Nights at Freddy's used to have a YouTube video series uploaded by a bunch of different individuals called Fnaf VHS. Something that Fnaf VHS and the Fnaf games did so well was analog horror. Yes, I know what you're thinking. What do you mean analog horror? When you say analog, do you mean like pen and paper? After doing some research, I think I can explain it in a way that you'll understand. Analog horror is tied into creepypasta. If you do not know what a creepypasta is, I would recommend Googling it, because if I covered it in this video, this would be way too long. Analog horror uses distorted faces and disrupted visual media to give a sense of connection, so it feels like it's actually happening to you. The best way to describe it is that whatever you're watching or doing or seeing is personal to you and can harm you in some sort of way. Just like you're watching the game is watching right back at you. The first video with analog horror on the internet, from what I've seen, is from a YouTube channel called Local58TV. The specific video on the channel is called The Fastest Available Route. For those who are interested in this video, I will leave it down in the description below, but I'm just going to go on and explain it. In this video, everything seems very normal. You're in a car and you're listening to a GPS. Then, one very odd and very strange thing is said or seen, and then everything goes downhill. In the video, the GPS tells you to turn your headlights off, and then it starts to get very odd. The specific video I'm using as an example blew up at the time, allowing this channel to make more content like this that follows a very specific checklist. This checklist is known as the analog horror checklist. According to the YouTuber The Night Guard, who inspired this video, if something is analog horror, 65% of the time it'll have majority of the stuff on this checklist. The first requirement is that it must have an analog aesthetic, such as a CRT TV aesthetic. Second, there's gotta be an authority figure of some type. It could either be somebody who's in charge or an animated program telling you what to do. Number 3, there's gotta be a calm moment, and then all of a sudden, something is said that seems very off, and then all of a sudden, things go horribly wrong. Doesn't that sound shockingly similar to everyone? Like the CRT TV aesthetic that we got from the cameras from FNAF 1 and 2? The authority figure telling you what to do, like the phone guy? Something calm happening and then one thing seems off and everything going off the rails? Kind of reminds me of when the Bite of 87 was first mentioned. Five Nights at Freddy's 1, 2, and 3 all used analog horror. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 and 3 also had these 8-bit minigames that dropped a lot of lore for us, like showing us Afton killing his first victim. These 8-bit minigames feel so much more personal to me because it feels like I'm actually playing as the animatronics during the Save Them minigame when Afton takes them apart. When you're controlling them and you get dismantled, you have a chance to get text that says you can't. Like, you can't save the children from getting murdered, or you can't save the animatronics you love from getting dismantled. Fnaf 3 hit even harder than Fnaf 2. It continued to use that 8-bit style minigame, but this time it decided to add a music box tune that in any other circumstance would be a relatively nice tune, but in this scenario, it's ominously creepy. Why am I explaining analog horror? A YouTuber used analog horror and the Fnaf content to make something even scarier that made Five Nights at Freddy's feel more personal. The channel I'm going to be referencing is Skimpy McGinnis. They created these Fnaf VHS tapes that were supposed to act as guides for employees that used these exact same elements. I don't know if you guys realize this, but we have yet to receive analog horror since Fnaf 4. The next game released after Five Nights at Freddy's 4 was Fnaf World, which was a bit of a troll, but at the same time a major piece to the lore puzzle. Scott probably realized something. Since analog horror was being oversaturated, Scott might have saw a change needing to take place. It seems that Sister Location was an experiment to see if working as a night guard and working as something a little bit more than a night guard, like animatronic repairs, electrician, and everything else was enough. To keep that analog horror theme, Scott even made a secret ending with Ennard where you get to work in an office. But that's it. Fnaf changed from you're only a security guard to somebody who works at the Fazbear Entertainment Company. We then got Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, the first Fnaf VR game to come out. It allows you to do fun stuff from the mainline games and introduces you to a lot of fun game modes that turned Five Nights at Freddy's from an analog horror franchise to more of a thriller franchise. Upon the announcement of Security Breach, we were told that we were getting a game that was known as extraordinarily scary. We did get some scary moments like the daycare and DJ Music Man, like I said earlier, but we haven't gotten analog horror, and because of how bright Fnaf Security Breach is, it just doesn't feel the same. Looking at Security Breach's Ruin DLC, I can say with full confidence, the DLC is way scarier than the actual game. The main reason is simple, because it's a lot darker. You're not expecting to be in a bright area. With this franchise, you are expecting to be in a low visibility area. Us as humans have a tendency to be afraid of the dark, not because they're scared of it, because they're scared of what could be hiding in it.
Not everyone comes back out of the dark.
Security Breach almost completely lost that because of how bright it was. Fnaf changed their formula without any of us even realizing it. And I'm looking forward to what this formula could produce through Five Nights at Freddy's VR 2, which has to make a big impact. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to watch another video, click the video on the left. That's my Minecraft Dungeons video. And if you want to subscribe, click the button on the right. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one. Peace!